Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about the idea of pulling yourself back up. I've been dealing with a bit of a slump lately. I had kind of a rough stream last Wednesday, which really would be July 21st, because I'm recording this near the end of July. But I had a rough stream, and I've just been overworked with hosting the 2-hour album challenge, hosting the OST jam, trying to make a game for the OST jam, above and beyond all the other stuff that I normally do. And it just kind of, I think it hit me with a bit of burnout. And the problem, like I've talked about many times in this podcast, is that burnout is something that sneaks up on you, where suddenly you just have no urge, you have no desire to like do anything new or interesting. And it's really deceptive, and it's really hard to combat if you don't recognize it. And I guess I probably noticed it around Friday, where I just didn't have that passion to work on the OST jam game that I was working on, and I just like it just felt like a slog. And I just kind of it all kind of fell apart from there. It's no matter how well you've like kind of built up your defenses against burnout and against depression and all this other stuff, like it can be just like one thing that pulls the wheels off, and it all just kind of falls apart. It's actually kind of an interesting metaphor with momentum, where it's like the faster you're going, the more dangerous like a malfunction can be. And like when you have that momentum and all of a sudden things just kind of crash to a stop, you just feel this emptiness that you had before, or feel this emptiness from what you had before. Like, on that Monday, I think that would be like the 19th, right? Yeah. That Monday, I talked with Brian Funk for his music production podcast, and I had a blast. Like we talked for 90 minutes, and I was super high energy, and I was just feeling great. And then, Tuesday was kind of a rough day, and Wednesday I had a bad stream, and it just put me right in the gutter. And it sucks. It really sucks that, that happens. But as creative people, we're kind of, to some degree, at the whims of our emotions. And I think that it's important to recognize that and to embrace that as much as you can. And that involves just kind of being mindful of your mental state. And I've talked about this before. Like, this is not anything new on this podcast, but it's just so important. And really kind of this podcast is me just pontificating upon whatever's happening to me at the moment. So, you're just going to have to bear with me. But I really like reinvestigating these ideas, because they are perennial. Like every time something like this happens, it happens in a little bit of a different way, and you can kind of explore it from a different angle. But the whole point I'm trying to make here is that you have to find a way to pick yourself back up again. You have to find a way to just continue moving forward, even if it's at a snail's pace compared to where you were before. It's so valuable to not just give up and stop. Because even though I had a bad 2-hour track challenge on the 21st, tomorrow's the 28th, and I'm doing another one. And I hope it'll be better, because that's when the podcast comes out, and I want to have a good song right up front and center when that podcast comes out, because I think Brian's listenership has been going up lately. But I am going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it, even though it's tough. It's really tough. But I also know that one good 2-hour track challenge, one song that like just really nails it, I think can completely flip my mood around. And there's a little bit of a danger to have your mood rely so much on that kind of random chance. But I think that it's, again, it's kind of part of just being a creator, and that's just kind of how it goes. But I could stop. There's nothing keeping me from doing this. But I need to keep doing this, because this kind of momentum and this kind of forward progress is what makes me grow as an artist, and what allows me to continue to put new and interesting things out. And this is kind of like the engine that runs my whole online presence when it comes to music. And if that engine seizes up, if that engine stops completely, like it would be real easy to just be like, oh, I'll do it next week. Oh, I'll do it next week. It's like going to the gym. If you break that habit, it's really hard to get back into it because you know that all that momentum is lost and all those gains are lost. So you just got to keep going, and you got to pick yourself up, and you got to do it again. And you know, there have been months with the 2-hour track challenge where just every song I made just wasn't, I hate saying the word bad because they weren't bad. They were just like, they weren't up to the standard of quality that I felt was possible with my current skill set. And it's entirely possible that that'll happen again. But last week I felt like I painted myself into a corner and I just was not able to get out of it. And I was being gimmicky, and that was when I am still like hitting random and getting a random drum loop and then trying to make a song off of that. And excuse me, that whole gimmick thing is great. I think having gimmicks and having some kind of like a randomized trigger to inspire the whole song is very, very valuable. But I have to learn that it's something that I need to be a little bit more, I need to cultivate it a little bit more. Because if I get a bad loop like I did last week, I should be able to just hit random again and keep going. I got a little sidetracked. I'm sorry. But just the whole point of this is that I just need to keep working on it. And now I'm just talking to myself, but really most of these podcasts are me talking to myself. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I really do appreciate you guys, sticking around and listening to me, ramble on to myself. But like, this is such an important lesson. And this is such an important thing to keep in mind when you are down in the dumps, where it's like, you don't have to be at full capacity. You don't have to be where you were a week ago, but you do have to keep in mind that it's just important to not forget about where you want to be. And obviously you should take a lot of time for yourself. You need to recoup, especially if you're burned out. Like, sometimes it's important to put it in the back burner, but make sure that you have your priorities right so you can come back to it at some point. And you're not just going to be like, well, I'll get to it sometime. You can be like, well, I'll get to it next Wednesday when it's scheduled to happen again. Because if you leave wiggle room with that date, with that deadline, it's very easy to just not do it at all. And I mean, that's kind of what happened with my OST jam, where I got burnt out and I didn't feel like doing it. And then I'm just not going to submit a song or I'm not going to submit a game this time, which bums me out because one of my goals this year was to release 4 games, one for each OST jam. And it's entirely possible that I'll keep working on my OST jam game and release it independently. But, you know, I want to be a part of this, event, and I'm not this time. And that bums me out. And that kind of put me into that spiral again, where I'm just like, oh, I'm not supporting the community, or I'm not participating in the community as much as I should. And it's just like, I gotta get over myself. Like, it's all of this stuff is on me, and it's really easy to be down on yourself for it, but it's all good. Deep breaths, you know. Anyway, thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. I really genuinely do appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to me. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Be remarkable.